Hi, this is Landon Bryce from Thoughtcast.com, and this video is a little off topic for what I usually do, which is talk about autistic stuff. So I want to explain what it is and why I made it. I saw this fascinating blog post from Robert Wright at The Atlantic that really made me think about some of the limitations of parent-based advocacy. And I thought that maybe looking at it from the perspective of gay rights, which is a little further on in terms of how people think about it in general, might make it easier for some of us to think about and talk about it. But I also, when I thought about it, realized that the whole topic of gay marriage was going to be extremely distracting to some people as well. So I thought that I would go through the conversation. Robert Wright was responding to a Blogging Heads TV episode between Glenn Lowry and Ann Althouse. And I thought that I would go through and kind of respond point by point to their discussion. So this video is going to start and stop, and really only watch it if you're interested in finding out my opinions about gay marriage and particularly some of the arguments that they make in this video. So it's again, mostly because I felt like some people were going to be so distracted by the gay marriage issue that that the other video was going to be difficult, and so I just want to, if you're in, anyway, this is the one to watch if you want to talk about gay marriage. The other one is the one to watch if you want to talk about autism and parents and stuff. Okay. So first of all, they're talking in response to President Obama's announcement that he is in favor of marriage equality. A few things about that announcement, because you might wonder what I think about that. It was great, and it felt wonderful, and it really made me proud to be a citizen of the United States, and made me really feel good about the president, and I'm really grateful to him, and I'm really grateful to all the people who pushed on this issue, and to President Biden, Vice President Biden, and to the reporters who just ate Jay Carney for lunch. If you haven't watched that press conference the day after Joe Biden got above his skis on Meet the Press and said that he was in favor of marriage equality, it's hilarious to watch. A lot of fun. Anyway, especially knowing that, yes, in fact, it had the effect that they wanted it to have, and the president did then come out and endorse marriage equality. Okay. All of that said, there's this great scene from one of my favorite John Waters movies, which is totally inappropriate for kids. But it's a really funny movie if you like hilarious, gay, inappropriate humor. But there's this scene where they make one of the characters say something. They say liquid eyeliner. And John Waters, in talking about the film, he says, it just cracked me up, just the idea of just making people say stuff. And that's kind of my whole response to the marriage equality thing. Why have people been focused on making the president say stuff? That's kind of gross. I would rather, I've been very upset and with the whole gay rights movement's approach to Obama in really one particular. They've not focused on the one thing. I mean, the one thing I think really has been significant to criticize this administration for. Gay organizations and gay reporters and gay bloggers have pretty much been absolutely silent on, and that is the fact that there's nobody gay in the cabinet. There's nobody gay in a significant place where they actually have a say in policy, where when policy is being decided, they're actually in the room. The White House has been pretty good on gay appointments at a pretty low level, but those high-level appointments that we would need to see in order to feel, for me to feel as a gay person, that my positions were actually being represented. And the fact is, there's never been an openly gay person on a presidential cabinet, and I consider that a real historical injustice, and it makes me real sad that the president didn't feel like that was an injustice that he wanted to right. And it makes me real angry that the people who are supposed to be representing me have focused on making him say stuff rather than saying, hey, you know what we need to support you isn't for you to say, I support gay, is for you to have a gay person on your cabinet. You know, I mean, there was a lot of, upset about the fact that he had this, I don't even remember the preacher's name, but who spoke at his inauguration. But some minorly, very vaguely, very non-threateningly anti-gay religious figure. But then there was like nothing at all about the fact that there was nobody gay on the cabinet. And to me, representation is the most important thing. You can't get anything done if you ain't in the room. Okay, so that's what they were talking about, and that's how I feel about the whole Obama and gay marriage thing. And let's go. Okay, so they have this very, very cynical discussion about whether or not Obama was kind of faking this, and and Ann Althouse really comes to the conclusion that why would Obama fake being passive and making it look like events forced him into something, which I really agree with. I think maybe it's very likely that Joe Biden was supposed to float some sort of trial balloon and just went way too far, if there was a strategy, I think probably that was it. That it was both something where maybe he was supposed to say something about that went a little bit towards saying the administration was being more supportive of same-sex couples, but I think anyway that's my impression. Okay. So then they talk a lot about whether or not Obama was being dishonest previously when he said he didn't support gay marriage, and I really kind of disagree with people who said that the president was being dishonest when he said he didn't support gay marriage, because I guess I just don't really get the sense that this is a guy who cares very much about gay marriage or gay rights, or I mean, I think he's not, certainly I don't think he's hostile or bigoted towards gay people. I just think that they're not a question that really gets him going one way or the other. And so for him to kind of follow the polls and say, this is kind of where my team is right now, and this is, I think, the position that is most likely to do me and the Democratic Party, and probably pragmatically gay people, the most good right now, I don't think that was dishonest. I think that was just kind of a display of a low priority on this issue. And I think one of the things where gay rights activists have been very successful is in raising the priority of gay rights as an issue with the Obama administration. Okay, so this is the point where I think it might become clearer why I've chosen to engage with this discussion, because Ann Althouse says a lot of really smart things about milieu, and she references her own experience. She is a professor of law at a liberal school. She has been in favor of gay marriage since she first heard of the idea in the 1980s. And I think this idea that our biases are largely formed by who and where we are with, it's just, I think that's really important, and I think that's important whenever we think about bias. Okay. I also want to say that given the fact that they both have some cultural biases that also might inclinate them against fully accepting their gay kids, I think it's great that both Glenn Loury and Ann Althouse are so supportive of their gay kids, and that they really relate that to their political opinions. And I think they're fantastic for doing that. Okay. So the real problem I have begins with the fact that they do not make a distinction between religious marriage and civil marriage. So I really actually would agree with most of what they say, maybe almost all of what they say about people's attitudes regarding marriage, if they specified that they were talking only about religious marriage. I don't think you can legitimately say that somebody who attends a church that doesn't allow gay people to get married is bigoted. I think that people, religions are really grappling with this issue. And I think, if you're a good Mormon or a good Catholic and you go to a church that that really has that belief, and that belief is still part of your life, and you would really not be comfortable with gay people getting married in your church, I don't think you're a bigot. I think in 20 years, I would probably disagree with that. I think that probably, if the movement of gay acceptance continues, I think it will probably be the case that, if you're attending, the branch of the Catholic Church that still says that gay people can't get married, then, yeah, probably that will be indicative of some bias on your part, because I would guess that all mainline religions will have a choice, that'll be pretty well accepted, where gay people will be, accepted. So I think that won't be a choice at that point in time between your religious tradition and acceptance of gay people. That's just my prediction. It could be totally wrong, right? You certainly can never count on trends continuing as they seem. Look at women's rights, right? Look at race. I think a lot of times acceptance reaches a glass ceiling, and frankly, there's no reason to expect that gay rights wouldn't reach the same sort of glass ceiling that we have in terms of race and gender. So that's but it's very different when we're talking about civil marriage. I think at this point in history, if you object to gay people having the same legal rights, and even the right to the word marriage, that's an act of what I would call bias. And I'm going to talk more about bias in the other movie. I don't want to get into that whole thing now, but I think bias is universal. I love that song from Avenue Q, Everyone's a Little Bit Racist. Go listen to it if you haven't, because I think it's absolutely true, and I think it goes, extends to all kinds of bias. I think, for example, let's go on. Glenn Lowry asks, what do we owe those people who are a little bit slow to evolve? And, my answer to that would be what I just said. We owe them religious marriage. But what's interesting to me is the question he doesn't ask, which is, what do we owe gay people in this transitional phase? What do we societally owe to the idea that gay people deserve the equality, the dignity of being treated as equals by everyone? Lowry also equates bigotry with overt acts of discrimination like anti-gay violence. And no, just saying, you're worse than me and you shouldn't have the same legal rights that I do, that's a pretty awful thing to say. Just think about how you would feel, straight people out there, if somebody was saying, that, my relationship is so much better than yours that I have to have it written into my constitution that we can't be treated equally. To me, that feels like an act of incredible hostility. And it really feels like someone wants me to every day of my life suffer because of who I am. Because I will tell you on a personal level, because Proposition 8 passed in California, my employer's, my domestic partner's employer doesn't legally have to give me health insurance, and so does not. So I am somebody who suffers on a daily basis as a result of the people who needed to push through their religious disapproval of people like me in my state. And again, I ask the question is, during this transitional period, yes, I think it's very reasonable. And I think, by the way, this is one of the reasons I think parents are essential advocates, is because these, heterosexual parents are still essential advocates in the struggle for gay rights, right? Because they're asking questions like this. And these are questions that have to be asked. So asking the questions is really the parent's role, but dictating for me as a gay person how I should answer those questions, I think very much is not. And that's where they both become, I think, really quite offensive.